Hello, my friends. I hope all of you are fine. This is the Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. David stood in the attic, surrounded by dusty boxes and forgotten memories. Sunlight filtered through the small window, casting beams of light that illuminated particles of dust dancing in the air. The attic was a place they rarely ventured, a repository for the remnants of past years. David had decided to spend the weekend organizing it, hoping to clear out some space and perhaps rediscover a few lost treasures. As he sifted through old photographs, high school yearbooks, and mementos from their early years together, a small weathered box caught his eye. It was tucked away in a corner, half buried under a pile of outdated holiday decorations. Intrigued, he carefully lifted the box and wiped away the layer of dust that had settled on it. Inside, he found a stack of yellowed letters tied together with a faded blue ribbon. One envelope, in particular, stood out. It was addressed to his wife, Emily, and postmarked from a summer many years ago. The handwriting was unfamiliar and elegant, the kind that spoke of a bygone era of handwritten correspondence. David's heart raced with curiosity. He knew he shouldn't invade her privacy, but an inexplicable urge compelled him to unfold the letter. As he read the elegant script, his curiosity turned to confusion, and then to a deep, gnawing sense of dread. The words on the page began to blur as he processed the shocking revelation within. The letter revealed a part of Emily's life that David had never known. She had written about a passionate affair with a man named Victor during a summer in Europe. Years before she met David, Emily described the whirlwind romance in vivid detail: the moonlit walks along the Seine, the stolen kisses in hidden cafes, and the intoxicating allure of young love. The letter was filled with raw emotion, painting a picture of a woman deeply in love and profoundly affected by her experience. As David read on, the depth of their connection became painfully clear. Emily had been completely enthralled by Victor, and their time together had left an indelible mark on her heart. David felt a wave of betrayal wash over him. He had believed that he and Emily had shared everything, that their love was pure and untainted. Now he questioned the authenticity of their entire relationship. Every memory, every intimate moment was now cast in a shadow of doubt. Had Emily truly loved him, or had she been hiding this secret love all along? He put the letter down and sat back, his mind racing. The attic felt suddenly claustrophobic, the walls closing in on him. He needed fresh air and space to think. Leaving the box of letters where it was, he descended the narrow staircase and stepped out into the backyard. The evening air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the attic. David tried to calm his racing thoughts, but the betrayal gnawed at him, relentless and unforgiving. David spent the next few days in a haze of confusion and hurt, replaying the contents of the letter in his mind. He wrestled with how to confront Emily, knowing that the conversation could change their lives forever. His love for her was undeniable, but so was the pain of her deception. He thought about their life together, the dreams they had built, and the future they had envisioned. How could he reconcile these with the revelation of her past? Finally, one evening, as they sat together in their living room, he could no longer keep his turmoil inside. With a deep breath, he handed her the letter. Emily's eyes widened in shock as she realized what it was. The color drained from her face as she read, and tears welled up in her eyes. She looked up at David, her expression a mix of guilt and sorrow. "David, I can explain," she began, her voice trembling. "I never meant to keep this from you, but I was afraid of losing you." She went on to explain how her relationship with Victor had been a beautiful but fleeting chapter of her life. When they parted ways, she believed it was for the best, but Victor's sudden reappearance in her life had brought those old emotions rushing back, and she didn't know how to tell David without causing him pain. David listened, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. He could see the sincerity in Emily's eyes, but the pain of her betrayal was still fresh. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought we shared everything. I was scared, Emily admitted, tears streaming down her face, scared that you would leave me, that you would see me differently. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. David felt as if he were on an emotional roller coaster. His love for Emily was undeniable, yet the betrayal cut deep. He found himself reliving moments from their past, now tainted by this revelation. Flashbacks of their wedding day, their honeymoon, and the countless little moments that made up their life. When they parted ways, she believed it was for the best, but Victor's sudden reappearance in her life had brought those old emotions rushing back, and she didn't know how to tell David without causing him pain. David listened, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. He could see the sincerity in Emily's eyes, but the pain of her betrayal was still fresh. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought we shared everything. I was scared, Emily admitted, tears streaming down her face. Scared that you would leave me, that you would see me differently. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. David felt as if he were on an emotional roller coaster. His love for Emily was undeniable, yet the betrayal cut deep. He found himself reliving moments from their past, now tainted by this revelation. Flashbacks of their wedding day, their honeymoon, and the countless little moments that made up their life together haunted him. Each memory was now marred by doubt. He began to question everything, the sincerity of her smiles, the truth behind her words, and even the foundation of their love. Desperate for clarity, David sought advice from his best friend, Mark. Over a few beers, David poured out his heart, explaining the situation in painful detail. Mark listened patiently, offering a sympathetic ear and thoughtful advice. You need to decide if you can move past this, for your sake and Emily's, Mark said. People make mistakes, and relationships are complicated. But if you still love her, maybe this is something you can work through together. David nodded, appreciating Mark's perspective. But it didn't make the decision any easier. He knew he needed time to process his emotions and figure out what he truly wanted. Over the next few weeks, David and Emily engaged in long, heartfelt conversations. They revisited their past, discussing not only the affair, but also their deepest fears, hopes, and dreams. These conversations were painful, yet cathartic, slowly helping them rebuild a bridge that had been shattered. Emily suggested meeting Victor to get closure, and David reluctantly agreed. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe in town. The atmosphere was thick with tension as they waited for Victor to arrive. When he walked in, David was struck by how ordinary he looked, and yet this man had caused such turmoil in his life. Victor greeted Emily with a polite but distant familiarity, then turned to David, extending a hand. I'm sorry for any pain I've caused, Victor said sincerely. I never intended to disrupt your lives. He explained that he had returned not to rekindle the romance, but to make peace with his past. The conversation was awkward and tense, but gradually the three of them began to navigate through their emotions. Victor shared his perspective on the affair, shedding light on aspects that Emily had left out. He spoke about his regrets and the impact their relationship had on him. David observed the interaction, trying to gauge the lingering emotions between them. He could see the genuine regret in Victor's eyes and the relief in Emily's as they finally closed this chapter of their lives. As the meeting drew to a close, David felt a strange sense of closure, while the pain of betrayal still lingered. Understanding the full context of Emily's past helped him begin to heal. He could see that Emily's love for him was real, and that her past with Victor, while significant, was indeed in the past. In the days following the meeting with Victor, David found himself at a crossroads. He spent long hours reflecting on everything he had learned. The betrayal still stung, but he also saw the sincerity in Emily's regret and the love she had for him. He thought about their life together, the dreams they had shared, and the bond they had built over the years. Emily's plea for forgiveness echoed in his mind. She had made a mistake, but she had also shown a willingness to make amends and move forward. David knew that holding on to the past would only continue to hurt them both. After much soul-searching, he decided to give their marriage another chance. He outlined the steps they needed to take to rebuild trust, open communication, couples therapy, and a renewed commitment to each other. It wouldn't be easy, but David believed that their love was worth fighting for. He sat down with Emily and shared his decision. "I'm willing to try," he said, his voice steady. "But we need to work on this together. We need to rebuild our trust and make sure our future is built on honesty." Emily nodded, tears of relief streaming down her face. "I promise, David, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." David and Emily began the slow process of rebuilding their marriage. They attended therapy sessions together, where they learned to communicate more openly and honestly. The scars of the past didn't disappear overnight, but with time they began to heal. They made a conscious effort to create new, positive memories, reaffirming their love and commitment to each other. David reflected on the lessons learned from this experience. He realized that love was not always perfect, but it was resilient. Trust, once broken, could be rebuilt with patience and effort. The journey had been painful, but it had also brought them closer in a way they had never been before. They learned to appreciate the strength it took to forgive and the courage required to be vulnerable again. As they stood together, hand in hand, looking towards the future, David felt a renewed sense of hope. Whether they were celebrating a small victory or overcoming a new challenge, they faced it together, stronger and more united than ever. They knew that the road ahead would not be without its difficulties, but they were committed to facing them as partners, with a deeper understanding and appreciation for the complexities of love and trust. In the end, the confession that had threatened to tear them apart became the catalyst for a deeper, more honest connection. David and Emily emerged from the ordeal with a newfound resilience and a love that, despite its imperfections, was truly unbreakable. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.